Welcome to Season 6, Episode 1 of Dualistic Unity, live from our Netherlands retreat. I'm excited about how little I have in my head right now and how much there is in there, despite feeling like there's so little, and how exciting it is just to be able to, film an episode like this, be in a place like this, and just express wherever I'm at, whatever I'm going through, realizing, that's all the podcast has ever been. That's all life has to be, is just an expression of yourself wherever you're at. I'll come up with an idea of where I should be at, what I should be going through, what I should be doing, how good I should be at this, how good I should be at that. At this point, it's like I'm always just expressing myself, and that's all it ever has to be. It doesn't have to be some correct way, right way to film an episode. It's like this episode is going to just be an expression of where we're at right now. And that's the beauty of everything that we do, every experience we have. It doesn't have to be this thing where we do the right thing, the correct thing. It's just an expression of you, and there's no wrong way to do that. So, yeah.
I like how you said that. I like how you started that with, there's so much in there. And yet at the same time, there's nothing. I don't know what to reach for. I could reach for anything. And that's always true. That's why I like expression. I could reach for anything. I just happen to default towards self-judgment. I default towards thinking about Ray and his value and his story and how he fits in with everyone else. And it's just so interesting because there are countless other fucking things I can think about. I could think about anything. I could be thinking about what the grass is doing outside. It's just as relevant. It just comes down to the fact that I'm used to thinking about me. I'm used to thinking about me, and I'm used to thinking that it matters how I judge myself. It only matters to me. And I don't have to judge myself, but I can. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's a perfectly optional way to live in self-judgment. But you'll never judge your way out of judgment. You'll never find the right way to live. You'll never find the right way to be. You'll never find the right way to think. Because they're all just optional. There is no right way. How do you live the right way? How do you become the right you? What are you comparing that against? What am I comparing that against? This experience this week has been amazing. I wanted to say that because, of course, we're recording this episode at the Netherlands retreat. We just had that awesome introduction. I was fucking emotional, frankly. But I don't know. This week has reminded me that it's never about the idea of me. And I've gotten really good at it over the last half of my life, understanding my idea of me is not me. But it creeps in. It creeps in all the time. Because it's always optional. Always optional. I judged myself earlier for how I was showering. I'm just standing there looking at the water. It's like, just get in. Just get into the water. That's all you have to do. But I'm just sitting there going, am I doing it right? Like, how do you do that to yourself? Because you can do that with anything. You can do that with anything. I can do that with how I'm talking. I can do that with how I'm sitting. I can do that with how I'm running this retreat. All I can do is keep going. But if I judge myself, then I will not pick up what's happening as I go. I'll just pick up on what I'm focused on. That one's tough. I really want to make sure I'm doing a good job. I really want to make sure I'm doing the right stuff. And everybody here feels valued, and loved, and appreciated, cared for. And I can beat myself up for not being able to be there with all of you all the time. And don't get me wrong, I have. But I'm here to the best of my ability with my insecurities and my shit and my fear. It's the best I can do. That's the best I can do. That's the best all of us can do. It's just taken me so fucking long to realize that I can just let it be that. That is also an option. So I'm very grateful to everyone who's here, because I know it's been a hell of a road. This has been a hell of a retreat. Not just the retreat, but your journey to get here. Wow. You know, I'm proud of all of you. I'm proud of me. I'm proud of Andrew. And by proud, I don't mean like, good job. I just mean, fuck, we are still here. What are we going to do with it next? I'm not going to judge myself for it. And neither should you.
Amen. Yeah, it's pretty wild, all the paths that we all took to get to this spot, all of the ups and the downs, the things that we've been through, the things that we've judged ourselves for, the thoughts that we've had about ourselves, and how often those things can come up, and how frequently they can come up, and how easy it is to do it. But like you said, it's an option. It's just one option. There's so many options out there. Judging myself, measuring my progress, looking at myself. It's just one that I keep doing over and over and over and over, thinking that it's going to get me somewhere. It's going to do something that's going to benefit me, that's going to get me to do the right thing. It's like, as long as I'm judging myself, I think there's some path, some measurement that I could finally figure out that allows me to know the right thing to do, the right thing to say, the right way to be. It's not in there. It's not in the judgments and the criticism. You don't have to focus so much on yourself and how you're doing, or the familiar assumption that you must be doing something wrong. You always got to be doing something wrong. Like, I was sitting during when we were taking mushrooms before, I was judging myself for how the mushrooms were hitting me. It's like, am I doing these right? Am I laughing enough? Am I relaxed enough? Am I too tense right now? Oh, am I not feeling anything? Am I feeling too much? I should partake in that. I should get into that. I should go, take a nap, but I can't take a nap because I have a role to play here, and that makes me fucking stress out. And how often every retreat for me has been letting go of that idea that there's something for me to live up to. Like, I get this idea that I have to be something for everyone. It's just like an easy way to avoid being myself. And a couple nights ago, I was feeling that intensely, and hit me, and chatting with Ray, and it's like, there's nothing here for you to guide or to lead, or anything. Being you is the best way you could possibly lead and help someone to realize that they can just be themselves. There's no right way to be here in this retreat. And I hold on to these ideas like, oh, I'm a co-host of a retreat. Like, Jesus Christ, you tell me that 5 years ago when I was in college, still going through loads of my own shit, no differently than I'm doing right now. And you told me I'd be, co-hosting a retreat with 20 people in the middle of the Netherlands in 5 years. It was like, no fucking way. But here we are. And holy Christ. And I always had these ideas, this idea of being, especially with the retreats, like, oh, if I was just that, perfect retreat host, that person you think about that's great at public speaking. They're always there, always, giving the motivational speech every morning at breakfast. All those crazy ass motherfuckers. But we can hold on to this idea that, oh, that's the right way to run that, to run a retreat, right? It's like, that doesn't do anyone any good. And how often I think that, I should be, if only I was perfect, if only I was better at this or better at that, or didn't fear this or deal with this. And it's like, how stale of an existence I would have, how unable to relate to anyone else it would be if we didn't have our stuff. Like, that is where connection's found. You see someone going through something, you're like, yeah, I get that. I've been there. I've been in the depths of self-doubt, self-judgment. That was about 30 minutes ago for me. It's not like that was 5 years ago. I remember that, when I used to judge myself and get worried whether I was doing the right thing. Yeah, that was a couple hours ago. I was crying over all that stuff and feeling so much of the ways that we can focus on ourselves, and the reasons, the reason that we focus on ourselves to some degree, but how far we can take that, how much we can assume that there's something, there must be something incorrect, as opposed to just relaxing a bit and realizing that, there's not a right way for me to be me. Like I'm just gonna keep doing it. I can relax while I do it, or I can tense up while I do it. Just because I have an idea of the right way to be that isn't matching where I'm at. But the more I can realize that there isn't anything wrong with what I'm doing, how I'm acting, the situation that I'm in, how I'm handling it, I can just relax a little bit more. There's no reason for me to think I have to live up to some expectation, whether I'm on a podcast, a right thing to say, at a retreat, being a host. It's like, I go through plenty of my own shit at these. I don't need to add on this idea that I shouldn't be going through shit and should be, meeting this expectation I have of myself. You know, that I'm in it. I'm here being myself, not trying to live up to some standard because I think that that's a better way to be. There's no better way. There's no better way than the way that you're doing it right now, ever, like moment to moment to moment to moment. And you can get caught up in thinking that you're doing it incorrectly, but it doesn't mean that you are. As soon as you can come back to, oh yeah, I was judging myself and judge myself or judge myself and getting stumbled and caught up and all these things, but there wasn't anything wrong with that. It was vital. It was necessary, in some way, shape, or form. We don't know the roles that we're playing, the interactions that we have. We'll give it a reason for why we're doing something, but we don't know. And the assumption that we're doing it wrong is only ever an assumption. It just tends to be a familiar one, oftentimes.
It's interesting. We were talking about, and I know it's easy to do this when you have a moment of clarity and you're like, oh my God, I just keep making this about me. I keep beating myself up. I keep thinking about myself. I keep comparing myself. I keep just focusing on this idea of me. And when it's caused so much of your suffering, you can't help but ask, like, why? Why do I keep doing that? And I love the response, why not? Because it's a good one. Why not? Why not judge yourself? There's no reason. There's no reason you can't do this. That's the whole thing. Everything's permitted. You're allowed. If you want to walk around smacking yourself in the face, you can do that. That's the wonderful part about being alive. You have free will. It's just that we forget how much will we have. And we get really caught up in this idea of control. And it twists things. All of a sudden now all we see when we want to be in control are the things that either validate our sense of control or things we're afraid take away our control. All of that potential that was in the abyss until that moment, it becomes narrowed down to what we're focused on. And we live in that. We dream of a certain future, or we dream about a certain path, or we dream about a certain relationship. And that's all within this spectrum of control. And we're so used to doing that, of envisioning certain trajectories, that we forget in doing that, as much as you can see in imagining a certain future, you are cutting yourself off from everything else you could see. Because it's all still in there. It's all optional. We cut ourselves off to the experience of everything that we are when we want control. And this is why I think it's funny that relaxing can be so goddamn jarring. Because as soon as you relax, all of a sudden you start to become more aware of all of the things you're not in control of. And then you're left with your response to that. And you could relax, or you can tense up and try and get control. But you've done that. How many times have you done that? What's in the other direction? That's why I love the idea of repentance. Repent just means stop, go the other way. That's it. We've done control forever. We know where it goes. Suffering. That's where it goes. Control, this idea that you can be in control, will do nothing more than have you jumping through hoops forever. Desperately trying to keep that sense and afraid that you're going to lose it. But to understand that you never have, and you're fine. You don't need control. Changes everything. All of a sudden, you can just be where the fuck you are. It's not about trying to get somewhere. It's not about trying to be something. It's about where you are. Because if you have no control, then all you have is here. And your relationship with yourself. And I think that's the point. I don't want to think about that. There's a lot of shit in there. So instead, I'm going to distract myself. I'm going to make a journey to become more. And that's what narrows down everything I am. So it's a small, palatable, digestible chunk. The chunk that I'm willing to accept I can be, or the chunk that I'm willing to think about being, rather than what I actually am right now. It's such an interesting fucking paradox. The less you're trying to be something, the more you realize how much you are. And that's all we're ever trying to do, is just relax into that. And every time we relax, we're just like, holy fuck, there's a lot of shit in there. Like, yeah, relax. It's going to be okay. And I think that's the underlying message of these retreats. I think more than anything else. And I think that's the only reason people listen to me as I go on and on endlessly about stupid shit, is the fact that I know you're going to be okay. Because I know I'm going to be okay. And I have countless reasons to tell myself I won't. I don't know. What I do know is that I am right here. And that remains true. That's good enough. I'm just going to focus on that. And as a way of living, that's just fine. That's really the only way you can live. You can live in your head, or you can live here now. It's just, what are you expecting from here and now? And that's often the case. We're just like, but this isn't what I want here and now to be. Like, well, part of that is the wanting. You know, like you want it to be something else. There's a reason that you want it to be something else. It's because of a certain lack of satisfaction. You know, expectations, ideals, a certain concept about yourself. You know, an idea of what life should be, preferences, all that stuff. But if you quiet down and relax, what you'll find is that this moment is perfectly appropriate. It may not necessarily be. It took me a long time to get that. Still getting it. Every once in a while, I'm just like, fuck, why is it so fucking hard? Oh, yeah, that's my attitude right there. Yeah. That's pretty much it. I look forward to going back to my quote unquote life after this retreat, because it's just nice to know that I've been informed by all of your journeys. I've been informed by all of your conversations, all of your insights, all of your questions, and the mic just died.
Yeah, it's loose. Yes. We gotta make sure we keep it tight in there. Yeah.
Is it gonna work, or is
it... Yeah, as long as we keep it, yeah, loose.
Thank you. Are we good?
Yeah.
All right.
As long as the lights stay green.
It really is that. I don't know what is best for any of you. I don't know what's best for me. I never knew that this was something I wanted in my life. I never knew that at one point, I know for a fact that at some point, if somebody had said, hey, would you like to sit and talk in front of a room of 20 people with no idea about what you're going to say? No. No, I don't want to do that at all. Right? Absolutely. And why are you asking me? But fact is that this is my life. Why not? Why not? Why don't you have a microphone? It's the whole question. You know, it's like, why are you afraid of it? It's not even like you need the microphone. You don't need to sit there and go, yeah, I'm going to go out and talk to everybody. Are you afraid of talking to people? That's really it. Like, it's all it comes down to. Are you afraid of it? And if you are, then fuck it, do it. Right? Why? Just so you realize you can. At least then that layer of that box is gone. It's worth it for that. That's why I love karaoke. That's why I love sitting here, just being an exposed fucking nerve. because that's what it's like to me. People tend to assume that because I don't look like I'm going through shit that I'm not. But I can honestly tell you I go through more shit now than I ever have in any other period of my life. I just don't react to it the same way. I feel a lot all the time. I was saying to Andrew, it's such an interesting journey because there are times when I feel like the entire goddamn universe. And there are times where I feel like a very scared little boy. And that entire experience is my reality. It's incredible to have that spectrum. We don't think about it that way. There's like, sucks. Oh my God, there's so much happening. But if you don't react to it, if you don't think you're not enough to take it, then it's just what you are. It's just your experience. It's just your life. It's just you. It's not like the world is too much. You are the world. There wouldn't be a world to experience without you here to experience it. So it's just you're experiencing and your reaction to your assumptions. If you just find that gap before the reaction, what you will find is there is a whole world of potential, a whole world of possible perceptions, feelings. But the reaction always comes from fear. And that one we're familiar with. It takes faith to experience life. Fear, fear is easy to fall into. All you have to do is think you're in control.
Yeah, the control is a funny one. I feel like I've never really sat on it and looked at it and how much it drives everything I do. The focusing on thoughts, like just now, going through every time we do one of these, I'm like saying, like, fuck, where's my notebook? I got some thoughts. I want to write that shit down. Then it's like, no, or I could relax. And then it's like it's right there because that's the repent. It's the relaxation. It's like, fuck, I've held on to this illusion of control, this illusion that, I can come up with the right thing to say, the right response, the correct way of expressing something, or I can just relax. And then it's right there. And there's an irrelevance in a sense to what's said when it's just the state of relaxation. Because is that not what we're all trying to get to? We go through society, we exist, and I see it so often in the world, people trying to get to a place of comfort, security, but where are we all really trying to get? Just freeing ourselves right now, the ability to relax. It doesn't have to be dictated based so much on our circumstances, but if I don't want to be responsible for my reality right now, if I don't want to be responsible or recognize that my entire fucking experience stems from me, like it's not on anyone else. There's no one to blame. There's no one to look to. There's no one to guide me. There's no one to tell me how to live or what to do or the right thing to say or the right way to act. It just always stems from me. And that's it for everyone. So that's why, these retreats are so incredible. And I'm just starting to realize even more so just with this one is having faith in myself is having faith in all of you. There's been a part of me that's wanted to, be extra supportive or help someone out. It's not to say that I'm not around and chatting and sharing things and talking and all this stuff, but it's not from a point of teaching anything. It's just shared experience. And if things come up, things come up. There's no one to help. There's no one to save. There's no one else. There's no other experience that is being done incorrectly. Everyone has their reasons for the things that they do. They've been through all different sorts of things that cause them to think that, tension is a better response than relaxation. That's all it is. Everyone's been through so many fucking experiences. All of the people you think are doing things wrong or incorrect or that you want to blame for certain ways that your life is or ways that you are. It's like they all went through just as much shit to them to get them to the spot where they think that tensing up is a better response than relaxation? How do you convince someone who's been through over and over and over and over reasons to tense, reasons to tense, that relaxation is an option? You show them. You do things that make you afraid, and just do them, and don't get so worried even if you stumble while you're doing them. Like, I think Alan Watts said once in a video that freedom's not being perfect. Freedom's the willingness to make mistakes and continue on, the willingness to let yourself stumble, the willingness to get up, in front. And in this situation, 20 people at a retreat sitting in front having a microphone. It's like, I said, fuck no, not even that long ago, and I still get nervous as fuck doing stuff like this. There's still, the heartbeat. It's no different. I went years and years and years thinking that I couldn't do things, couldn't overcome certain fears. I can't do this until I'm not nervous. I can't do this until I'm not worried about it. It's not that at all. Like, you can do anything you want at any point. Your feelings, the things that come up, the emotions that come up in response to a certain thing are irrelevant, but no one can convince you of that but you. No one can face those things but you. No one can step into those things but you. And realizing that those judgments you have about yourself, the assumptions that you have about yourself, aren't the truth, makes that a whole lot easier. Stepping into those situations that you're afraid of, it's a whole lot easier when you realize that there's no way for that value to waver. You go through something, and you could go through something and stumble and fall. And that could be, at the end of the day, if you're trying to share something, share an experience, you do that, get up, laugh at yourself, and keep on strutting. It's like, that sends so much more of an impact throughout reality than you doing the perfect thing, never falling, never stumbling. It's so funny how we just want to keep ourselves from that experience because of how it feels, because we prioritize how we feel, and we always think, oh, I should be feeling something else. I'm a little bit uncomfortable right now. I shouldn't feel uncomfortable. I should be comfortable. So I'm going to tense until I'm comfortable, because that makes a whole lot of sense. Just keep clenching till I finally am able to relax. It's not how it works. You gotta relax, and sometimes being okay with being tense is the only way to relax. And the way out is the realization that there's nothing wrong with where you're at right now, the degree of tension you're holding on to right now, the feelings that you're feeling right now. Who's to say there's something wrong with that? But your assumption that there's something wrong with it.
We're gonna get to some Q&A here if anybody has any questions in just a second, but I think one of my favorite conversations from this week involved the darkness. And sometimes it just feels like shit just keeps coming. People take advantage of you. There's fucking more to do. There's more weight. There's more stress. It just keeps coming. And you're like, fuck. Oh my God. Where the hell's the light? And you're looking for it. And you're looking for it. And you're waiting for it. And you're waiting for it. Why don't people bring the light? Why isn't everybody else doing this? What about the rest of the world? You are the light. You're the light. And you can sit here looking for it, or you can shine. But it's a practice. It's a practice when you haven't been doing it. And it's a practice when everybody around you is looking for somebody else to shine the light. But you are the only light you've ever needed. You are the only light you'll ever need. And I love the fact that we have retreats based around exactly that insight. And so that everybody who showed up at this retreat isn't looking to be saved. Nobody here is looking for somebody else to teach them how to be. This is just a space to be. It's been wonderful to share that space. And to our listener, I hope that you can share that space with us at some point as well. It's worth it if you can make it. But for now, we're going to open up for Q&A. So if anybody has any questions, raise a hand. We'll pass you the microphone, and then we'll see where this goes. Anyone?
And I'll jump at one.
Nothing.
Yeah. I'll come to you.
You can hop in the video if you want.
Oh,
You want to
shit,
slide in.
my throat. I forgot about that completely.
That's okay.
What's the hardest part, or what have you guys found the hardest about doing this retreat? there is any.
Oh, that's a great question. Oh man. Now I'm like, oh boy. Oh. I'm just gonna start talking. I think,
I can go if you want to take it.
yeah. Also, I think going through my stuff and thinking that I shouldn't be, going through things and thinking that I shouldn't, having some expectation of myself on top of all of the things I was going through, at least for me, and realizing like, oh, I have stuff too. And the assumption that we shouldn't have things or we should be over certain things is just that. It's just an assumption. And we put weight on top of ourselves, as we're going through something, thinking, I should have gone through this already. I feel like I was over this. I feel like I'm past this. And that's just like adding shit on top of the shit. And we're just like constantly making things more and more difficult for ourselves. So I appreciate all of you very much for just being who you are, being yourself. I've really appreciated everyone just being willing to be yourself and open up, and it's been inspiring because you all inspire me a fuckload. Because I see, I've been through, this is our 8th retreat now, and I understand there's never any idea of how something's actually going to go, but there's a general sense of like, all right, first few days people are going to be uncomfortable. That includes me, and there's a willingness to see that, but there's still the idea like, oh, I should be, at this point I should be more comfortable because I have to be comfortable in order to show people that they can be comfortable. And it's not that. It's not setting yourself up to a bar so that you can help someone else. It's just being yourself to allow them to be themselves, and being themselves isn't feeling more comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. Like being yourself is just being yourself. Like it's being uncomfortable as fuck in a situation that you feel like is silly as fuck to be uncomfortable in. It's being okay with judging yourself for fucking not knowing how to take a shower, or thinking you're taking mushrooms incorrectly despite you having done it a bunch of times, and knowing that shit comes up, and then all of a sudden 4 hours in you're wreathing in your bed in the fetal position, crying your eyes out, screaming like a little baby. It's like, all right, they hit, just took a little longer this time around. So yeah. Yeah, right. Oh man. But yeah, I think at least personally for me, it's been that, realizing initially, and then going back and forth with it, but being willing to let myself be myself. And all of you have helped me see that, because I've seen so many of you who I know it's not easy to put yourself out there. I go through the same stuff and jump in to a situation, or just say your 2 cents despite thinking that it's totally worthless. And then all of a sudden someone responds, they're like, I was just thinking that. Oh, it's such a good point. Oh, I love when you talk. Oh, I love when you share things. You have so many cool things to share. All of a sudden they're like, you're lying to me. That's not true. That's not part of my story. But we do it anyway. And then we see that. And then it's like there's a shared experience right there. There's a connection right there, just from someone stepping in to a situation that they didn't think they could. And so that for me is the constant back and forth. But I appreciate all of you have made it a fuckload easier for me to do it, this retreat. So I appreciate it very much.
It's interesting because the hardest part about this retreat for me has been the hardest part about the last 20 years of my life, which is that I know what it's like to go through this shit. I know what it's like to just have that giant spectrum of ways that you can beat the fuck out of yourself. I just know, and I understand it's in there. It's fucking part of what you are. Like it's always going to be an option. And I wish that there was a way that I could take that fucking doorway that's consistently in my awareness now and just give it to you. Just to understand that you can just not take it so seriously. You can look at all of that shit and just go, yeah, but I'm strong enough. That's it. I just wish there was a way that I could just get that across all the time to all of you as you're going through all of your shit. you're going to be okay. But I know a big part of this is going through the perception that you won't, the fear that you won't, that idea, that feeling, oh my God, the world's going to fucking end. I'm not enough. And it sucks. I get it. But you know what? If it wasn't for that feeling, you wouldn't know how to relate to anyone. And we all grow because you're willing to go through it. And so for the hardest part for me has always been that I can't just give you an easy out. I wish I could. But on the other hand, I think that's just because I wish I could give that to myself. And as my life continues on, I realize maybe I don't wish I could have that easy out, because if I did, I wouldn't have learned how to be here with all of you. I wouldn't learn how to be myself in a way that makes you feel comfortable enough for you to be yourself. If it wasn't for all that darkness and suffering, I wouldn't feel so much goddamn joy. But that is consistently still the hardest part for me at these retreats, is that I can't be with everyone all the time. I can't tell you that you're enough. But because of that, I've had to learn that you know it deep down, that you are enough. I just hope that while I'm hanging out with you, we can just fucking celebrate it. You know, that we are enough while we feel that is the case, and especially when we don't. It will pass. That's always it. So I guess it's not really the hardest part of these retreats. It's the reason I come. So I can be here with you as much as I can be. Yeah. I love it. I really do, I have to say. I love everything that's ever come from Dualistic Unity and my life as a whole. You know, there were so many points where I was just, what the fuck is this happening for? Like, Jesus Christ, I'm working another goddamn job I don't like for some prick who's fucking using me as an opportunity to get himself ahead. And it's just so easy to get caught up in these narratives and these thoughts, and yet at the same token, completely miss the fucking meal you're eating in front of you. And that's it. Life is just about the experience you're having right now. You know, dig into it. Just dig into it. So, yeah, it's a good question.
Any other questions?
No wrong question.
Anything. Doesn't have to be got the podcast. favorite sex position. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, Kellen.
What advice would you give for people that come to terms with that at a young age?
That's a good question.
Don't expect other people to follow. I would say, don't expect other people to think like you. It's so very easy as you grow, as your awareness expands, as you start to understand more about your life, to start thinking everybody around you starts to see things the same way, or that they should, right? Or that they need to be saved, or whatever part of the process that they're in needs to be where you are. Just accept where they are, focus on your path, relax, and just try to remember that no matter how much awareness you may experience at any given point, you never know. You never know. So somebody could come over to you and you could look at them and go, oh, wow, you are still super self-involved, which is a super self-involved thing to say. And that's the thing, is people will keep you grounded. People will keep you grounded if you recognize that there's no right place to be on the spectrum. But that means with yourself too. Just because you get this young doesn't mean that you're not going to get lost, you know? And so when you meet people who are lost, just remember that, just learn from them, recognize it, empathize, you know, and you will continue to learn. But getting it young is tough, because you want to talk to people about this stuff. And then when you do, they reject it. They reject it, or they run away, or they're just like, oh, it makes me super uncomfortable. And you have this tendency of thinking like, fuck, maybe I shouldn't be talking about this. It's like, no, it's not that you shouldn't be. It's just that, who are you trying to talk to? It's really just about you getting it. And it takes a long time to do that. And I say this after half my life. I woke up around 22-ish, let's just say. And everyone around me very much rejected everything that I had to say about just letting go, being responsible. Well, you gotta have a path, you gotta have a future, you gotta know what you want to be, all that stuff. And none of them were happy. None of them knew what they were doing either. They just didn't like admitting it. At least I was okay with it. But you really start to think like, if only they'd relax. If only they'd get it. And it's like, right, well, what do I want them to get? That I can relax, that they can relax. It's not very relaxed. So I would say, if I had to give any advice about getting any of this young, patience. And I know that sounds cliche. I understand how unsatisfying that sounds. But if you can find your moments to yourself, take advantage of them. There's going to be times when things get loud and confusing, and people are going to push you and pull you, and all of that is an opportunity to learn more later. But just patience. There's nowhere to get. It's all just one long unfolding process. And what's funny about that, I'll say this before I pass it over to Andrew, is that time goes by like a blur. Okay, I've had so many moments that have lasted forever, and yet suddenly I'm 20 years later. Suddenly 20 years has passed since that point where I'm like, Jesus, I feel so young and nobody around me is getting this. Now I'm like, wow, I feel so old. Nobody around me is getting this. But what's funny is that, the only thing that's really changed for me is the fact that I stopped thinking that there was a this to get. I started realizing it's more just about sharing whatever the fuck I'm going through. It's really easy to forget that when you're young. You keep wanting to try and get somewhere. Like there's an enlightenment. There's a place where there's no suffering anymore. Whether it's for you or for other people. And the older I get, the more I'm like, nah, I'm okay. I can go through all that shit. That's just fine. That's just fine. We really do tend to forget how strong we are. That's an interesting point. When we're young, we think we're invincible, and then we get older, and we're like, Jesus Christ, no, but I can take a lot. It changes things. But yeah, keep going, and be patient. That would be my best advice.
Yeah, it's so funny. While you were talking, when he first said it, I was like, "Have patience." And as you were talking, I was like, "All right, he hasn't said patience yet. I still got that one." And at the end, you're like, "So my final thought would be, have patience." I'm like, "Shit! All right, hold on." And it is that though. I think even moment to moment, going through something and making the assumption like, "Oh, I've lost progress. Oh, I've regressed," and then it's as soon as you let go of that, as soon as you let go of the certainty that you know where you're at, all of a sudden something hits, something opens up, an experience happens. And you're like, oh, all that I just went through makes a lot more sense. It's like time doesn't always work in the way that we think. Like we don't know what something is leading to. We always think it's like cause and effect. This thing happens and then all of these other things happen. But it's just as much these things are happening and then a thing happens and we never know what that thing's going to be. So being willing to just continue going through it is the best you can do. And I think my other point that I came up with last minute was don't be afraid of going down certain paths because you think there's going to be consequences to it. You have assumed consequences of it. I've spent plenty of times thinking, oh, well, it could be this consequence, it could be that consequence. I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna try that thing out or explore that. It's like you keep doing that and you only do the things that you think are gonna what? Like where are you getting? If there's no enlightenment, there's no right thing to do. Explore all the paths. If something seems like something you're interested in and something you want to try it out. There's going to be things you learn. There's going to be consequences you experience, but those consequences are just as much learning experiences. And then, you do some dumb shit and then you got something to talk about, a story to share. It's funny how sensitive we can get to certain things and be like, oh, I don't want to do that. Cause then what? It may catch me and then I'll stumble into this belief system and accidentally become like a Scientologist. It's like, no, that's not going to happen. You want to go to a Scientology ring or church or wherever the fuck they do, then go for it. You want to dig into any sort of experience, go for it. It's not about finding the right things. It's just about relaxing through whatever you're going through, which isn't found through doing the right thing, finding the right path, doing the correct thing, like maintaining the idea of there being a correct path, of there being a path in which there's no side quests, no things explored, is an illusion. Like that's going to keep you more stressed than anything that you hold on to. The idea that there's a path without any consequences. Like there's going to be consequences no matter what you do. There's going to be things that you go through. There's going to be things that you learn. So just keep going and have that patience and realize that sometimes you're going through something turbulent to learn something from it. You can't know what that is until you just allow yourself to keep going through it. It's like, oh, things are turbulent right now. All right. Things are turbulent right now. If you keep thinking that it shouldn't be turbulent, it's like that turbulence is going to stay and stick around and last a whole lot longer until you're like, oh yeah, there's going to be something from this. I'm going to have some sort of experience from this situation, this shitstorm that I'm going through right now. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to be able to know what it is until I, relax enough to let it continue to keep moving, release the bottleneck, just allow it to go through. You're going through hell. Don't fucking stop. Keep going. Keep allowing it to move through you. Keep doing things despite how you're feeling and watch how many things come up that then shift those feelings. So I think having patience and letting go of the idea that there's a wrong path or a place you should avoid out of fear of certain consequences because you have some idea of what the right path is. I think the more paths like that you explore, the more you realize, oh, there is no right path. Like I'm the path. Every step that I take is the path. My experience is the path. The things that I go through is the path. My mistakes are the path. My insecurities are the path. Like everything you're feeling right now is the path. You're on the fucking path. You are the path. You can't get off the path. Pay attention to the path because it's you here now. It's the only place you actually really, really have to pay any attention. You don't even have to pay that close of attention. You don't want to pay super close attention? Don't. But this is the only place that things are happening. So you might as well do that. There's no right way to do it. So you might as well relax a little bit while you're doing it.
As an additional thought, I would say, watch out for bias. That's one. It really, it gets so tempting to think to yourself, like, I got this. And life comes out and pulls the fucking rug out from your feet. That's going to come. It's going to happen. That's the big one. Never try to get to this point where you're like, yeah, fucking solid. It's never going to fucking knock me. Yeah, it will. Absolutely will. And if you're not okay with that, oh, it sucks. Because then you're going to judge yourself for being down. It's just like, oh, fucking happened again. I got all caught up in myself. There goes the floor. Now I have to get back up. Well, I've been here before. All right, get back up. Fucking start moving around. Learn how to do that shit again. And that's the point, is that it's okay to go through that cycle of standing up and falling down. Standing up and falling down and standing up and falling down. And if you can get good at that cycle, you will stop falling down and just lie down. Take a rest and then get back up. And it comes down to sensitivity. It really just comes down to understanding that there is a flow that is happening around you all the time. As Andrew said, you are the path. But we get so caught up in this very singular point of view. What about me? Amongst all of this, that it's like a drop just becoming so self-absorbed that it can't feel the rest of the river. And it's just relax, just stop thinking about yourself. and you'll start to realize that there's a flow, that there is an ebb and a flow. There's a swinging of the pendulum. You will go back and forth and back and forth. And that's what life is. Life is not feeling good all the time. Life is feeling, which means you are going to feel good and you are going to feel shitty. And that's the spectrum. And you know that's the spectrum. It's always been the spectrum. Just stop resisting that spectrum. Let it pass. It's so interesting because there was a point where if I was experiencing a moment of joy, I just wanted to hold on to it. I'm like, oh God, this is such a great feeling. And I'd be crying. I'm like, yeah, this is great. And now I get the same amount of joy in just a fleeting second of beauty. And I'm just as appreciative. And the rate of change just increases, but there's joy all the time. You don't have to hold on to it. It'll be back. Don't worry. You know, in the same way your suffering will be back. Don't worry. You will still be here tomorrow, and you will still have the option to beat yourself up or not. And that is the beautiful part about each and every day, if you choose to look at it that way, is that it's all optional. But today is what it is. What do you want to do with it?
Any other questions? We ready for some karaoke? Fuck yeah. All right. Well, appreciate all of you very much. It's been a blast of a conversation. As always, very, very unplanned. No ideas going in, but you all informed this conversation a ton. I think I had a thought about every one of you as I was talking, some interaction that we've had, some conversation that we've had. So I appreciate all of you for making the jump and making this retreat what it was, because we've said it many times, this could not have happened without you. You guys truly made it, not only made it happen, but made it what it was. So love you all very, very much.
In closing, just because I know you're all going to be chatting with me for the rest of the night, so I'm not going to spend too much time more going on in this episode. But I want to say to our listener, you may not know it, but all the shit that you're going through in your life has helped Dualistic Unity happen. All the shit that you're going through informs all of us all the time. And it's because every time you go through that shit and come out the other side, you know a little bit deeper that you can go through that shit and come out the other side. And that's the lesson that we're all learning. So let's just get through all this shit, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
All right. That was awesome. Let me just kind of quick. Yeah. Nicely done. Awful wind. Sliding in to go like Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Great episode.